to the podcast. Today we're going to address some tough topics, but that's where the fun begins, isn't it? So I've got a little phrase to start off and kind of lay out the scene for this podcast. So these days it's getting harder and harder to tell what's real. There's deep fakes, AI, fake news. You scroll through your feed and half the time you don't even know what to believe. So everyone's posting something, but who's actually telling the truth? When everything feels fake to a lot of people, how are we supposed to find something real? Is it even possible anymore, or are we just wasting our time? So today, I'm having a conversation with my good friend Ben Jack. He's a DJ, producer, and an evangelist who travels the globe to tell people about his faith. So, Ben, when you scroll through the feed or consume news these days, what's your gut reaction? Do you feel like you can trust these things that you see anymore, or is it just hopeless?
Well, I think that what's interesting is that we would even be asking the question now, can I trust this? Because I think there's a time when we would have been looking through the things in our lives and we wouldn't have been thinking that question. We wouldn't have been saying, oh, I wonder if this is trustworthy. In general, we'd have been looking at it and going, what you see is what you get. But now we're looking at it thinking, is what I see what they want me to get? And that's different. And so the fact that we're even having this conversation suggests that something's shifted. And I can understand particularly why a lot of young people who are looking through their feeds day in, day out for a long time are exposed to stuff where they're constantly thinking, this looks good, but is it too good to be true? And is someone trying to sell me something? Is someone trying to teach me something? And is what they're selling or is what they're teaching good for me, or is it good for them? So these are the questions that people are bombarded with and living by. Some people will be asking them directly. Most people are asking them subconsciously somewhere in their life. Yeah.
Got you. So clearly we want the truth from what I'm gathering there. We're trying to find the real answer behind these things. We're not putting up for the fake or the charade in front. Is that right?
Well, maybe. I think actually a lot of the time what people want more than truth is they want comfort. That's what people are looking for. People will trade the truth for comfort if they think that comfort will satisfy them in some way. And that's why a lot of people will end up living in lies that they know are not necessarily good for them. They might not necessarily identify them as being lies. Oh, I'm living a lie. But they'll know that somewhere deep down it maybe isn't necessarily quite right. But in the moment, it brings them some level of comfort. One of my favorite authors is a guy called C.S. Lewis. He wrote a bunch of books for children called the Narnia books.
Yes,
But he also did a lot of writing and thinking about Christian stuff. And he once said, you know, if you go looking for truth, you may end up with comfort in the end. But if you go looking for comfort, you'll only end up with wishful thinking. And so we got to decide for ourselves, what is it that we actually want out of life? Do we want the truth? Even when I'm confronted with the truth, it's quite hard for me. And I'm like, oh, flip, I'm not sure if I like that truth, because I might have to change what I do, how I think, how I feel. Or are we primarily looking for comfort? And I think the challenge with social media and all these things today is they feed on our comforts more than they feed on actual truth itself.
Wow, I really like that. So I want to ask you: have you personally struggled with trusting what is true in your own life or in your faith journey? Because I mean, like you were saying, all about comfort. Like we're almost seeking the comfort more. So when you've been growing up and going through life, have you found that you've been trying to find that comfort, or you know, where are you sitting on that?
Yeah, everybody has that struggle. Like I wouldn't believe somebody if I would say you're probably not being true. If you're telling me that you haven't struggled with that.
Come on.
Because I think everybody struggles with it. I remember when I was a teenager, one of the big things I struggled with was wanting to be accepted, but not just by a group of people. I had this weird thing, maybe I was just a massive narcissist, but I had this thing where I wanted to be accepted by everybody.
Yeah.
So I became proper social chameleon, where I would figure out how I could like become friends with the sporty kids, how I could become friends with like the emo kids that were listening to all the metal music and stuff. And I became this like real social chameleon, because somehow I thought if I could be matey and friendly with everybody, I'd kind of be truly fulfilled. I didn't just want to be in with one group, I wanted to be in with everybody. But of course, the problem with that was I was looking to get comfort somehow from mass acceptance. And the more I pressed into that, the more I realized that I wasn't giving me what I hoped it would give me. I was just actually making me more confused about who I actually was. And living for the pleasure of other people, it never actually brings ultimately pleasure to you.
Yeah, I could see how that's quite logical. I think people, we are wanting to fit in with what's going on around us, like a chameleon.
Natural.
I think it's so natural. I've got a little quote here that I wanted to share. So I think it captures some of the perspective out there today, and I wonder what your take was on it. So here's Ernest Hemingway, who said, "There's no one thing that's true; they're all true." I wonder what your thought is on that.
Well, that can't be true.
All right, go
Because
tell
there
me.
are things that are contradictory, and so you can't have two things be true at the same time
Mm.
that contradict each other. You know, 2 plus 2 can't be 4, and 2 plus 2 can't be 5. It's either 4 or it's 5. Which
Fair.
one is it, right?
Mm.
So not all things that are claimed to be true are true. I think where people get confused sometimes is the difference between objective truth and subjective truth, which might sound a bit confusing, but I'll explain it really simply.
Yeah, go on.
If you think about being on a nice hot sunny day, you go grab yourself a nice ice cream. Who doesn't love a bit of ice cream, right?
Oh,
We go and get ourselves some ice cream, okay?
yes.
And I'm holding that ice cream cone in my hand, and it's a nice. I don't know what your flavor is, but I'm all about the chocolate
Oh,
vibe. So we're there with
love
this nice
chocolate.
chocolate ice
Solid.
cream. And now, what is objectively true about that ice cream? It's an ice cream. Like
Mm.
I can put it into a scientific lab, and they can tell me the constitution of how it's made up as ice cream,
Right.
frozen milk, basically, right, with some sugar and stuff. It's an ice cream. Objectively, that is true for all people. That is undeniable. That is an ice
Of
cream, right?
course.
What is subjectively true
Mm.
to me is whether or not I like the taste of chocolate ice cream.
Mm.
So it's an ice cream that's objective true for all people. I might taste it and go, that's lovely chocolate. You might taste it and go, nah, strawberry's better, right?
Ah.
So, and I think the problem is that people they look at what is subjectively true, which is what I believe about something, what I feel about something,
Mm.
and then they put that onto things that would be true for all people in all times and all places. And because we're confused about those two things, we start making all sorts of mistakes about what could and be and what is actually true for all people.
Oh, that's interesting. That. So, what do you think people are actually longing for who say things like, you know, do you think the phrase "my truth" has helped people find freedom, or has actually made them more lost with that "my truth" stuff?
Well, I think it's made people more confused for
Mm.
sure, and I
Yeah.
think, look, we always got to be careful when we're talking about challenges like anxiety and depression and all the things that can go alongside the effects of people's mental health, because mental health is complicated and
Mm.
complex, and there are lots of things that feed into it and speak into it. But I think there's a lot to be said for looking into a culture and a society that for uh, a good chunk of time now, the entire generational lifespan of Gen Z, for example,
Mm.
has basically said your truth, your personal validation, your personal experience, your personal
Mm.
view of the world is what
Yeah.
matters most,
Mm.
has then also led to the generation that has the most challenges around mental health,
Got
because
you.
it brings with it a confusion, because people are
Mm.
flying around in the wind. They're
Of
not
course.
anchored to anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when the winds of change come, when society tells you it's this, and when society tells you it's that, and culture tells you it's this, and culture
Mm.
tells you it's that, what are you going to believe? If you don't have an anchor, it's always just rooted in the subjective me, what I think, what I believe.
Of
You're going to
course.
end up in a point where you're deeply confused,
Yeah.
actually, about where your
Can
hope
imagine. You
is,
just
and what
randomly
meaning could
option it.
be, and all that. You're chasing
Fire.
around it all the
Yeah.
time. The Bible talks about this. It talks about the fact that there's a kind of poetic wisdom verse in the Bible that says kind of meaningless, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. It's just like the wind being tossed around by the wind, unless, and the point that the Bible's making is,
Mm.
unless you actually have an ultimate source and authority. And as a Christian,
Of
obviously, I
course.
believe that ultimate source and authority is the one who created the world, the source of all truth himself, which is God.
Amazing. So that's perfect. You led me straight on to the next part. This anchor that we've been talking about, how not everyone has it, and it's great to hear. Obviously, you're a man of faith, and I think that anchor is found in your faith, if I'm right in saying so. I just want to ask you. I wonder where you think God fits into all this for outside for everyone else. Where can God help? When asking the questions, where are you? So when Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." What do you think that means in a world that questions whether truth even exists to start with?
It means he's either right or he's wrong, right? So it means
Right.
either Jesus is the way. He doesn't say a truth. He says,
Yeah.
I am the way, the truth, and
Mm.
the life.
So,
No one, not a few people or many people, no one comes to the Father except through me. What he means there is, Jesus, I am the living revelation of who God is. When you look
mm,
at me, you will see who God the Father is, the one who created you, the one who loves you, the one who has given you purpose, and the one who is the source of all truth. If you look for truth anywhere else in life, you may see an echo
yeah,
of the truth, because the world is created in God's image.
of course.
But
Yeah.
you will only see the full truth, and you will only be anchored in it
Mm.
if you see who God is and you are anchored in him. That's the point that Jesus is making. So what difference does Jesus make to all of this? Jesus is the one that gives us the opportunity not to be just constantly chasing around,
Yeah.
but to actually be rooted. And most importantly, what is the ultimate truth that people are hoping to be rooted in? It's this:
Mm.
who am I?
Yeah.
Or
Wow.
to put it another way, what am I here for?
That's deep. Yeah.
And so if you're constantly chasing around trying to find the meaning of the question, what am I here for? And you
Mm,
have no anchor for that question, every day it could change based on what culture tells you, what your feelings tell you.
of course.
Ultimately, what you're seeking there is some comfort
Mm,
that will help you get through day to day, because life is hard. So we need some
yeah.
help along the
Oh,
way. But Jesus
100%.
comes on, he says, no, I haven't come to give you comfort. I've come to give you
Mm,
the truth. And the truth will set you free. And let me tell you, when you are set free, then you will receive ultimate comfort.
wow. That's big. Fair play. Fair play. Now we've been talking a lot, obviously, about like the fear element of being deceived by like the not getting the comfort or seeking the comfort and not finding it
Yeah.
amongst all the truth that's out there. Now I'd be pretty afraid if I didn't know what was the truth, and even in this situation with Jesus, knowing if he's the truth, like that can bring fear because it's placing a lot on the line. How does this claim of Jesus speak into people's fear of being deceived when we're worried about, believe whether it's worth believing or not?
Well, I was looking at some research around how easy it is to spot fakery in AI videos. And at
Oh,
the moment,
interesting.
we're struggling. It's
Oh,
about 50 to 60% of people that look at an AI video
mm,
can judge. Now, obviously, that's going to vary on how good the AI video
of
is
course,
and
yeah.
all sorts of things. But they even did a study where they looked at two groups of people, where they gave one group of people training and another group of people no training on what to look for to spot fakery in an AI video.
Mm,
And the training didn't seem to make any particular difference in people's ability to spot. So at the moment, it seems like we're a little bit stuck where the technology has advanced beyond
mm,
our intuition. And at the moment, the technology is even beyond our ability to train to see what the technology is doing in its fakery.
mm.
That's going to leave people very concerned about not knowing what to believe. Like back in the day, if you'd like 10 years ago, if you'd seen some iPhone footage of one celebrity smacking another celebrity in the mouth, you'd have been like, well, that happened.
Of course,
That
yeah, you
happened,
believe it straight
right?
up.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now, if you see the iPhone footage of that happening, you're immediately going,
That's
maybe.
terrifying,
Maybe not.
that, yeah.
So what will lead you to believe it? That
Mm.
being true? Well, one thing that will lead you to believe it being true is your previously held beliefs on what that celebrity is like.
Got
So
you.
if you're like, well, I don't like that celebrity, and you see that video footage, you're like, yeah, that's the kind of thing that they would do. And your instinct won't even be to necessarily go and check
Mm.
whether that really happened. You're more
Yeah.
likely to just believe it because you don't like that person. If you love that celebrity, you're probably go, "Wow, that doesn't seem like something that they would do."
Yeah.
You're then going to go, "Let me look into
Facts.
it and see," and you're more likely to check. So our
Mm.
previously held thoughts, our previously held feelings, even that is going to shape whether or not we investigate,
Yeah.
whether we dig deeply into the truth. When it comes to Jesus, my question to anybody would simply be this: who do you think Jesus is? That's the starting question.
Mm.
Who do
It's
you
good.
think he is? And honesty around that question is the gateway into everything that could be true about him. But you've got to start with the question, who do you think he is? So when you look at that iPhone video, what do you think's going on there? Do you think that guy really smacked? Do you think, okay, well, let me ask this one. Do you think Jesus really died upon the cross 2,000 years ago? Some people think, well, why would I even care about that? Great
Mm.
question. Let's talk about it.
Mm.
Some people would think, yeah, I do think that probably did happen historically, but I don't think it has any meaning to my life today. Okay, great. Let's explore that. But what you are bringing to the table
Mm.
about Jesus when you're asked about Jesus will at least start you on the journey of discovering whether or not he is what he claims to be: the way, the truth, and the life, and the only way to the Father God who created you, who loves you, who has destiny and purpose for your life.
Fair enough. Wow, that's a lot. So, I wanna wrap all this up now, because we've spoken about some amazing stuff, talking about how faith is involved in all the madness that's going on in today, and I just want to ask for one last little bit of wisdom from you. So, if you could offer one final thought to people who are living in fear and are super skeptical about about the truth, what is true, and not having direction, what would you leave them with to help navigate life?
I would say, what is the root of your fear? What are you afraid of? Because a lot of the time people go through life rooted in fear and they don't actually know what it is that they're afraid of.
Mm,
So if you think that, "Oh, actually what I'm afraid of is I'm afraid of speaking out and standing up for something that I believe in
mm.
because I might get cancelled," I'll be like, well, what about being cancelled is it that you're afraid of?
Oh,
Like, because I'm afraid of being cancelled. Okay, why? Why are you afraid of? What does that actually mean
yeah.
to be cancelled? That you'll lose friends, that you'll lose social standing, that you won't be as popular, or that if you're a bit older and you've got a job, that being cancelled may mean that you'll lose your job or something. I think it's important, first of all, to actually understand your fear. What is it that you are afraid of?
Mm.
Because most of the time when you examine your fears, you realize that your misthought of understanding of your fear is worse than what would actually happen in the worst outcome of that fear. So just being realistic about those fears is a really important thing. But more importantly than that is actually to recognize that Jesus doesn't just claim to be the way, the truth, and the life. Actually, Jesus claims something really important. He says that his perfect love for us is actually the source of our ability to be set free from fear. That actually, the more that we press into Jesus being not just some random guy from history 2,000 years ago, but the living God himself who came to earth, who came to live the perfect human life, that was never worried about being cancelled. Jesus got cancelled all the time. He wasn't worried about being cancelled. Why? Because Jesus knew who he was better than anybody who's ever lived. Jesus knew that he was the Son of the Father who came to the world to take on all of the mess and the stupidity of humanity, all of the running away from God that humanity had been doing, to take it upon himself as the one who was perfect. And in taking all of that upon himself as the one who is perfect, not to be overcome and overwhelmed by it, but to still stand strong in his truest, fullest identity. He is the Son of God. And when we actually recognize who Jesus is, we start to think, wow, in Jesus, I can start to see who I was created to be. Not just the truth about who Jesus is, but the truth about who I am. And the more that I understand who I am, the more I understand actually how loved I am. The more I understand how loved I am by God, the more I start to make sense of why I've been looking for love in the world and in the wrong, weird places. Suddenly my fear starts to go away because I know there's nothing that I can do to make God love me anymore, and there's nothing that I can do to make God love me any less. He loves me. In fact, he gave his son Jesus Christ to die for me so that I could have life instead of death because he loves me so much. So it all comes back to this question, what do you think about Jesus? I could ask you about what you think about this social media thing and this AI video and this, and you'd probably have an opinion about it, some more strongly than other.
Of course.
That's all fine, but let me tell you, there is no more important a question of truth than this. Who is Jesus Christ? Take that truth question seriously, because that's the question that has changed my life. I know that's the question that's changed your life. Not just the question, but the answer. We believe he is who he claimed to be, the way, the truth, and the life, and through him we get freedom.
Flipping out. Wow. That was solid. That's even giving me some thinking to do. Well, Ben, thanks so much for this conversation. Thank you for coming in here. I really appreciate your time and everything you've given us. It's bank of wisdom. Thank you very much. That's some real food for thought right there that we just had with our conversation with Ben Jack, talking about truth and comfort and what we're really looking for in this world. Now, we've discussed that comfort is something we all want to look for, we all want to have, right? And sometimes the truth isn't always the most comfortable thing or the most comfortable option. And sometimes the truth is costly and it takes a lot. But what's amazing is that Ben Jack repeated this same phrase from the Bible that Jesus was talking about. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And that's something really unique because obviously we were talking about a lot of us feel lost or alone or confused what is truth or what is the right thing. And it's interesting that we always think of it being a thing that's true. But Ben was so clearly showing through that Bible verse that the truth isn't necessarily a thing, but more a person. And the more amazing thing about this person is that because he is the truth, he is also accessible in this very moment. So right now, if you're one of those people like myself when I was growing up who felt what could they trust, or they're a little bit lost and it's a bit scary not knowing what is right in this world, well, thankfully, the truth, you can talk to the truth. You can talk to Jesus in this very moment. And I encourage you to do that. So I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. We really, really loved this topic, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Where are you?